Hashtag revolution now protest ended with arrests and tear gas even before it started. Are protests now illegal? Well, Ibrahim El-Zakzaky has finally been granted a leave to get medication or medical attention in India. Will the federal government obey it? Well, this is Plus Politics, and I am Maryann Duke Okon. Following Omoyele Sowore's call for a revolution some days ago, many Nigerians staged a protest at different parts of the country, even though the convener had already been arrested on Saturday. However, the security operatives dispersed protesters who gathered to stage a protest here in Lagos State. Was the protest legal? Well, I have in the studio with me Mr. Adegbuyi. Babasola Adegbuyi, I beg your pardon. He hasn't been here in a while, so I forgot his name. Babasola Adegbuyi is a political analyst. It's good to have you join us. And of course, we have Ugochukwu Ikeakor. He's also a political analyst. It's good to have you join us, Ugochukwu.
Thank you for having me.
I'm too excited to jump into this conversation because this has so many sides to it. I'd like to believe that I somewhat was one of the first persons who heard Omoyele Sowore in person say there was going to be a revolution. And then I probed further to say, what sort of revolution are you talking about? And he said an organic revolution, because that seems to be the operating word in the conversation. Why he was arrested, the federal government is alleging that he was trying to topple the government. So I will start with you, Ugo. When does saying the word revolution become criminal?
Well, I think what we're seeing is that we're in a country at the moment where everything has been criminalized, especially under this administration. Some words that are basic, like meaning is very clear. So people are taking it and interpreting it, giving it a different interpretation. The dictionary meaning of revolution can mean different things. And nobody has come out to point out that, okay, Sowore said that this is going to happen. Sowore never asked anybody to pick up arms. Sowore never asked anybody to go after maybe the government houses or government infrastructure or stuff like that. He never said anything like that. So it's sad. I think what is happening is that this government is afraid. And for every...
What was the government, because we heard a lot of people say that former Vice President Atiku Abubakar said something about Sowore being kidnapped and that they were acting scared. So I'm wondering, what exactly would this government be scared of?
You see, this is a government that has, over the past 4 years, they're going into their 5th year, that has succeeded in silencing opposition, silencing voices, all right, on different angles, all right. They've done it in the covert way, some they've done it in overt way, all right. They made it difficult for people to say what they feel or what they think about government, all right. Democracy. Part of the thing that defines democracy is that people should have civic engagement, talk about how they feel about something, whether they disagree or agree. It should be done in a healthy environment, and we've not seen that. All right, it's difficult for people to air their opinions and say things they want to say, and this is because the government is making it seem that if you say something about the country or if you say something that you don't like, you're against the country, and that is far from the truth. All right? In 2011, Muhammadu Buhari, when Goodluck Jonathan was president, called for revolution. Nobody arrested him, all right? Nobody went down to Kaduna where he used to live, all right, before he moved down to Abuja. Nobody went down to Kaduna to pick him from there. It's the same way they picked other people, that year and the rest of them. See, it's difficult because what is happening to Sowore and his supporters and the people that all came out today to protest, all right, seeing even journalists, seeing the police go hard on them, you know, use tear gas, you know, some people get injured at the process. It's sad. And the funny thing is that we'll have police people that, police officers that don't understand that you are helping to put in a culture that oppresses you, all right? Because at the end of the day, you go back home, you don't have money to pay your children's school fees, you don't have a good place to stay, you're a police officer. Instead of you to allow the citizens to ask questions, to demand better, because at the end of the day, at the core of what Sowore and every other person that protested today is asking is that let government work for the people. And that is not a bad call to make any day. That is not a bad call.
Babasola, most of what Sowore kept asking for, in fact, the line was good governance. Now, a revolution, hashtag revolution now protest for good governance has a lot of sides to it. I'm still going to the DSS. We have that clip where the DSS has said that this the reason why he was arrested was that it was a treasonable felony for what he was calling for. And that's why I'm trying for us to examine the statements or the words that have come out from Sowore over time. This is a man who tried to run for presidency. This is a man who's been an activist. He is also a pressman. And I'm not trying to make a case for him, but if anybody else would know better, shouldn't he know better when it comes to these kind of things?
Well, we should not forget that Sowore is an activist, and he has been an anti-bad government for a very long time. So APC used him also in 2015 election against Jonathan government.
So you're saying he's an instrument of
I'm going somewhere. They used him against Jonathan government so successfully. He came back and discovered that the government he supported was not actually doing the right thing. He later decided to run for the same office to show the people the true government. And unfortunately, most people that are with him today did not vote him in. You get? So where am I going? He had stepped on a lot of tools. And they have now seen an opportunity to capitalize on the word revolution to get him arrested, not what he's actually clamoring for. He's actually clamoring for good governance. He listed a lot of things. Pay the 30,000 naira minimum wage, let there be good infrastructure, let there be good social amenities, all those things. Those were the things, but they are looking at revolution as a word. And the truth is, what is revolution? Yes, in a way, you can say revolution is an act or a process of trying to topple a government. That is one definition. But if you look at revolution another angle, you can see it's a way of calling on the government to change the ways of government of the society. But the DSS and the security agents are only looking at the one to topple the government. And for you to topple the government is not by protests.
Now, you make mention of something that I have been trying to ask people on social media all day. Our security operatives are supposed to, they're law enforcement agents, so they're supposed to know what the law says somewhat before, because if you cannot enforce what you don't know. So if law enforcement is giving this interpretation and calling it a treasonable felony, and the judiciary on one hand is saying there's nothing treasonable or there's no felony attached to this, does this not make our law enforcement agents look like they do not know what they're doing?
Well, the law enforcement agent, they know what the law says. But sometimes they act as if we are ignorant of what the law says. They have to carry out the objective of someone who has given them the order to go and disrupt protest. They just have to carry it out, whether we like it or not. But the person sending them is doing it to protect his own job, because he's also reporting to someone. Now, in the Constitution, the word revolution is not in the Constitution. But when I was listening to Barrister Femi Falana, he made it clear that protest, it is not unlawful. You don't need a permit to protest.
And the police keeps insisting that it is unlawful. We're going to give you clips. Our reporters were in town today to cover that protest. And the police officer who spoke to the media said it was an unlawful gathering, that he insisted that they did not take permission from the police, hence why they did what they did. But let's listen to the DSS boss, Anugo. I'll come back to you on that. His reaction to Omoyele Sowore's arrest.
Whether Sowore is with the DSS or not, the answer is emphatic, is in the affirmative. Yes, he's with us. And why is he with us? He has crossed the lines. He has threatened public safety. Sowore has, as a matter of fact, threatened the peaceful coexistence, social harmony of Nigeria. And there is apprehension, there is anxiety. Citizens, residents are worried as to what will happen next. And in fact, we want to use this opportunity to assure law-abiding Nigerians, friends of Nigeria, citizens of the world, and indeed people of the world, that come tomorrow, 5th of August, 2019, that there will be absolute peace in Nigeria, nothing will happen, there won't be any revolution, the government has been elected democratically, will be in place, and there will not be any forceful takeover of government. The DSS will not idle by, stand by, and watch people, you know, self-serving people take laws into their hands. We will do all that is within the law to discharge our responsibility and ensure that there is peace in Nigeria beyond tomorrow. In a democracy, one of the highlights of democratic governance is periodic elections. If any person who had contested an election didn't succeed, all you need to do is to go back, rework your system and strategies, and indeed wait for another election. You cannot, in the middle of, you know, shortly after an election, begin election in which one had participated. But I would not want to make comments about political issues. I want to limit the DSS to issues that concern public safety, to issues that concern our statutory mandate, to issues that has the Constitution that has enabled us to ensure and protect the internal security of Nigeria. Whether we will do that, it is not in doubt that we will do it. We will do it today, we will do it tomorrow, we will do it ever, as far as the entity Nigeria remains.
There's a lot he's saying. For me, first thing that hits me is he's talking about politics, and I'm wondering why the DSS is talking about or educating us on, you know, giving us voter education, instead of just saying, this is why he was arrested, this is what we think he did, and he was arrested. I don't know if you share the same sentiment. I'm still trying to understand why he had to make all that statement.
At least, for me, this is the worst spokesperson I've seen in a long while. All right, and for someone that calls himself a DSS spokesperson, he's sounding number one as someone that doesn't understand what he's supposed to do. All right, DSS went in the dead of the night to go and pick Sowore up. There was cameras that captured them, and we understand that some of these guys, they walk behind the scene. You don't get to see them. So for doing that alone, they've exposed close to 8 agents. That's supposed to work covertly. They don't need to know who they are. Their faces are on the camera. So not only are they showing how bad they are as a people, they don't understand what they're supposed to do. There was no place where Sowore mentioned that he's going to take down this government, that he's going to do anything. So whatever the spokesperson is saying is a figment of his own imagination. It wasn't in the statement that we read. And going into the hotel wherever Sowore was at night to pick him up as if he's a criminal. If you have any issue against the young man, give him a court summon. He should appear in court and defend himself. And see, the truth is that we're in a country where everything has been politicized. If there are few agencies that are supposed to be politicized as we are at this moment, it's the DSS. All right, you are telling us that the internal security architecture that DSS is doing that is not true, right? You are barely DSS as it stands now is barely fulfilling its constitutional objective. The country, the security architecture of this country is broken. All right, we're not getting information on who is doing that, and because you're Department of State Security, you're supposed to do more of intelligence gathering and rest of them. How many people have they helped over the last 4 years, over the last 1 year, over the last 1 week, over the last 24 hours to give us information on the kidnappers that have been parading our highways, the kidnappers that have been destroying lives, that kidnapped Samson Siasia Mom and the rest of them? All right, so there are issues they're not doing their job. So whatever he's saying does not make sense. All right, he's saying that because at the end of the day, DSS is no longer an agency that works for the people of Nigeria. No, they are there to serve the interests of whoever is the president of the country, and that is what we're seeing at the end of the day. Because it does not make sense. Whatever he said does not make sense, and like I already said, Sowore has said 30,000. I might disagree with him on some of the things that he said in terms of the money payment and rest of them, because this one are purely economic issue. But on this ground, whatever the DSS is saying does not make sense. This young man did not threaten against the state. That he said revolution, he protested, yeah. That he lost an election doesn't stop him from protesting if he feels that things are not going right. And people should protest, all right? Because the way they are trying to go about the whole thing is that, at the end of the day, you don't push people down because they're saying we don't like what you're doing, right? Nobody says, see, even if you've been elected to serve for the next 4 years, it does not mean that we should keep clapping for you and say, okay, yes, sir, you are doing well, whereas you're not doing well. The crux of the matter is that that's why in bank you have quarterly report, you have media report, you have annual report and the rest of them. If 3 months after the election we feel that you're not doing well, Protest is a way for us to checkmate you and say, sir, please do this thing better. So what DSS is saying does not make sense.
Let's look at the protest in itself. Our correspondent Mary Chinda was in town to cover that. We'll go to it in a bit. Before now, a lot of people didn't care necessarily about a Sowore Revolution Now protest. A couple of people, in fact, so I went home yesterday and my uncle said he never heard of it until the day he was arrested. So is it that the government played into this? Is this what, because there are people who are saying, that pundits who are saying Sowore actually set a trap and the government fell into it, and now everybody's talking about revolution now. And we saw what happened to a lot of people who went out for that protest today, even though the police are saying that it's unlawful, nobody took permission from them. Again, it takes me back to the question of how much of the law does the police, who is the law enforcement agency,
it's just unfortunate that most of our law enforcement agents are ignorant of what the law says. They only know go and come, and that is all they understand. Now, on the protest, on the revolution now, actually, I wasn't aware of a revolution now until Friday when it started tweeting on Twitter. So I went in there to check what revolution now is all about. Then the following morning, I saw it on the TV, breaking news, Sowore arrested. I was like, is that for real? Over what, for just for protest? For me, I don't see anything wrong in anybody protesting. There was a time in this country that the Nigerian police officers protested. Nigerian Army officers protested, and nothing happened. So, yes, some of them were arrested, some of them were punished, and some of them, they are still in service up to now. So what about the armless civilians protesting, telling the government, Mr. President, you have failed us. You need to look. What are they actually calling for? They are calling for economic revolution, industrial revolution. Talk of anything revolution they are talking about. That is not about toppling the government. It's about you impacting the lives of the people. And that is what is expected of you. You have done this for the first 4 years, we were blaming Goodluck Jonathan. Now, we're expecting that by the next 4 years, you should be blaming yourself. If you don't want to blame yourself, you are looking for people to blame. And for the revolution now, I also believe that is a bait, and they fell into it. And this has actually made Sowore to be more popular, even more than it was before the election. They actually failed, the government has actually failed on this part. So people are just waiting for them to know the next steps to take.
Interesting. Let's take a look at what our reporters covered this morning in Lagos. Apparently, some of the pictures can be disturbing, but let's take a look.
It was chaos and pandemonium at the National Stadium in Lagos, Nigeria today, August 5th, as men of the Nigerian Police Teargas passionate protesters who had gathered for the planned National Revolution Now protest called for by the presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, AAC, Omoyele Sowore.
Well, the planned anti-government protest, Revolution Now, was supposed to have started off here as early as 7 a.m. this morning, but protesters who had gathered here at about 8 a.m. were dispersed.
The situation escalated as die-hard protesters make a comeback.
The situation on ground that these people come and harass us, come and give us harass. After they have months everywhere, they don't let us have access to the public area. We do not say anything. We are saying here, we are saying now, we are trying to talk to the press. They want to stop us to talk. For what? Nigerian Police, Nigerian Army, Nigerian Air Force, who are they?
In 2011, 2014, the president himself led a protest against Jonathan. It is our civic right, a peaceful protest. The state of the country is not good. Unemployment, killings, insecurity.
The security operatives do not take this lightly as they get a hold of some protesters and cut them away in this van.
Arrest him or don't arrest him.
This journalist from Sahara Reporters is also arrested and carted away in an undeserving manner.
This is a journalist being dragged into the Black Maria.
This police officer tells the press that the protest is illegal.
Nobody has consulted or contacted the police authority or whoever
seeking for permission for any protest, or peaceful or not peaceful. Nobody has sought any permission. So it's an unlawful assembly, and an unlawful assembly has to be dislodged.
Now, if this is going to be sustained, if they might show up tomorrow, are we going to have the same presence of security officers?
We have the capacity and the capability to sustain it.
In less than an hour, the Commissioner of Police, Lagos, storms the area as though to oversee how his men are nipping the Revolution Now protest in the bud.
You are here, you have seen things for yourselves.
We don't discover that here understood by the Nigerian Police.
Yes, you have seen them. You have seen them.
What is happening here?
Ask them what's happening.
Sir, there have been some arrests.
You have been here. You have been here before me, so ask them. Ask them. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
In the meantime, Omoyele Sowore, who is also the publisher of Sahara Reporters, has been in custody of men of the Department of State Services since last Saturday night. Mary Chinda for Plus TV Africa.
Well, that report by Mary Chinda there, obviously, there are some things that we had to take out because they were very disturbing. But the people that came out obviously came out because they felt that their rights were being somewhat trampled on. But let's look on the flip side. Are there any other ways that Nigerians can explore to register their displeasure, especially when an election cycle has come and gone, in the middle of an administration, if you do not appreciate what the government is doing or they're not living up to their promises?
There's no other way. Protest, protest, protest. Or you go to court, right? The president has...
Sounds like ta-cha.
No, the president has immunity. You're not going to ask him to leave the office, all right? And not just the president. Every elected official, both from let's say from the lower house, let's say House of Assembly, down to the Senate. You see, the fact is that I think one of the greatest disservices we've done ourselves as a nation is that in the last 4 years we've allowed someone that has no atom of democracy in him to preside over the affairs of Nigeria, all right? So he's not a reformed Democrat. He does not understand that protest is part and parcel of
How is that
democratic governance.
even possible for a person who tried to run for presidency more than 2 times? How can he not be reformed? How does he not know what he's running for? If you were a general and then you decide to run for an office which is under a democratic system of government, you obviously should know what you're in for.
He doesn't know. That's what I'm telling you. If he knows people, they won't harass Nigerians. If he knows, all right, because I say at the end of the day, we need to understand that all the security apparatus in this country answers to the General Commander of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. They don't answer to the Commissioner of Police. The Commissioner of Police in Lagos didn't take his order from Sowore. The DSS didn't take the orders from Sowore. They all take the orders from Abuja, from the service chief and the rest of them. And the service chiefs who today report to the presidency. So see, the truth is that we're in a country and we have people that enable this bad behavior. All right, we have citizens that feel that this is okay because they are part of a member of a particular political party and the rest of them. It does not matter. All right, the country is bigger than your party. Be it party A, be it party B, or party P, DP, or AAC. It does not matter at the end of the day. So people need to have that at the back of their mind, whatever they are doing. See, the thing is that if the president stays there, the court doesn't remove him or he stays there till the end of the 4 years, he's going to leave. Right? This country is ours. But the truth is this, if people are not okay with something, people should protest. All right? Under Goodluck Jonathan, President Buhari called for revolution. Under Goodluck Jonathan, the current APC leaders, they all protested in Abuja. Yeah. They all protested. They occupied Nigeria. Apart from occupying Nigeria, they did another protest. Right? It's not. It didn't happen once, twice. There were a series of events. So at the end of the day, see, if you all enjoy this benefit, all right, because all these things that they did, like you rightly said, Sowore and the rest of them, they all played a part, right, in bringing these guys into power in 2015. They all had their reasons. They will answer. But the truth is that if
this be Sowore reaping what he sowed?
I won't say that. But my focus is this: if you did this thing, you benefited from this. You benefited from protest. You benefited from civil agitation. People came out to protest for you. You benefited from the press, right? Because coming coming into government, Shah reporters, the rest of them, they wrote these guys into power. And these same people are now using their platform to ask you to be responsible for once in the last 5 years, to be responsible for once in the last 5 years. You fail to do that. And the best thing you're doing is to send police officers who are yet to pay their children's salaries, who don't know that they're supposed to be on the side of the people. They're the biggest set of people that should be ashamed of themselves.
Going forward, Sowore is still in custody, obviously, as against the law. We spoke with Barrister Ubani earlier on today, and he said something about the fact that they should release him with immediate effect, but it's more than 24 hours, it's more than 48 hours, and we're still here. We haven't heard anything. How do you think this is going to rub off on the average Nigerian who's watching and taking notes?
Well, what I would just say is continue watching, and I'm very sure some people are strategizing, actually sitting down, thinking of how the next step to take. That's number one. Number two, the appearance of Sowore in the court, I don't know why it's been delayed. I learned from someone in Ogun State now that some people are arrested today, and as a result, they have concluded that taking them to court. The first question I asked, if someone you arrested on Saturday has not appeared in court today, so why do you want to take someone today and to court tomorrow? You know, the government, as we are practicing our own governance in this country, is totally different from how it's been done. We don't follow constitution. The law says within 24 hours. Even the new IG was even the one that actually reduced it to 24 hours. It used to be 48 hours. Now that it's more than 24 hours, I don't know the next step they want to take. But one thing I'm so sure of is this: Sowore is leading a revolution we are actually calling for. I've said this several times that the person that with this country must be ready to sacrifice himself for us. And what he needs from every one of us is this: to give him that support. Do not condemn him. He's not fighting for his own interest. Sowore does not reside in Nigeria. He lives in the US. He comes in and fights for you. And Sowore has everything to enjoy over there. But because he knows that Nigeria is his country and there is a need for Nigeria to be better than other countries, or better than what it is now, then people need to support Sowore, and everybody must stand up and take up that mantle.
All right, we got to go. We need to take a short break, but I want to say thank you to you, Babasola Adegbuyi, political analyst, Ugochukwu, Ikeakor. Thank you very much for speaking with us. But they're not going anywhere. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll be speaking on the new development on El Zakzaki. So stay with us. We'll be right back after the break.
It was chaos and pandemonium at the National Stadium in Lagos, Nigeria today, August 5th, as men of the Nigerian Police Teargas passionate protesters who had gathered for the planned National Revolution Now protest called for by the presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, AAC, Omoyele Sowore.
Well, the planned anti-government protest Revolution Now was supposed to have started off here as early as 7 a.m. this morning, but protesters who had gathered here at about 8 a.m. were dispersed.
The situation escalated as die-hard protesters make a comeback.
This nation on ground that these people come and harass us, come and give us harass. After they have months everywhere, they don't let us have access to the public area. We did not say anything. We are saying here, we are saying now, we are trying to talk to the press. They want to stop us not to talk. For what? Nigerian Police, Nigerian Army, Nigerian Air Force, who are they?
In 2011, 2014, the president himself led a protest against Jonathan. It is our civic right, a peaceful protest. The state of the country is not good. Unemployment, killings, insecurity.
The security operatives do not take this lightly as they get a hold of some protesters and cut them away in this van.
Arrest him or don't arrest him.
This journalist from Sahara Reporters is also arrested and carted away in an undeserving manner.
This is a journalist being dragged into the Black Maria.
This police officer tells the press that the protest is illegal.
Nobody has consulted or contacted the police authority or whoever seeking for permission for any protest, or peaceful or not peaceful. Nobody has sought any permission. So it's an unlawful assembly. and an unlawful assembly has to be dislodged.
Now, if this is going to be sustained,